All right, folks. Hello, hello. Welcome to today's webinar. Welcome to another episode of the DNA Company webinar series. My name is Justin. To those of you that are new to the series, I'm part of the internal clinician team at the DNA Company. So, functional genomics is the name of the game. And it's funny, prior to doing this in a previous lifetime, I was actually a personal trainer and a strength and conditioning coach and a nutritionist and what have you as well. So I kind of started in the fitness realm and got more and more detailed and elaborate as I went. So teaching people how to lift weights and teaching people how to eat right, kind of how to pair it in with their fitness program was a big part of my background and what I did. Um, I also spent about 5 years in the supplement industry, right? Bodybuilding supplements, these different things. So you pick up these little nuanced bits of information and it adds to this cumulative body of knowledge that you have to kind of draw from. So I've been doing this for a while as well. And now through functional genomics, we can really personalize our recommendations in these different ways. So for today's podcast, I mean, that's what we're going to be talking about is fitness, how to do it. You know, do you like to lift weights? Do you like to do cardio? There's some genetic considerations and things in there as well to figure out. So the way I would like to preface this is to kind of consider what is your fitness goal to begin with? You know, like what do you want to get out of this body, this gift that we've been given? And I say that because it's a good idea to kind of look at yourself and say, what is the 10.0 version of me? What's the best I could be? What does that person look like? What does that person feel like? What's it like when that person comes into the room? Picture that. That's when we are able to figure out the plan to get you there. Do you want to be jacked? Right? Is building muscle even a part of that? Or do you want to be more of a yogi? Do you want to be a marathon runner? What does that look like to you? Once we've established the goal, then we can figure out the protocols and the plans to get them in place to get you there. So, that being said, there's a million different training modalities. There's different ways that we can approach it to get you to that end goal. And that's what we're here to do today. So I'm here to help you with that. And my esteemed colleague and jacked colleague, I will add, is also a great expert in there. So Felicia, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Justin. Hi, I am Felicia, and I am an IFB figure competitor pro. I've also a personal trainer through NASM, have been a personal trainer for many, many years, also competed for over 7 years. I love health and fitness. I love how you can change your body through weightlifting and eating or yoga or Pilates or running, swimming. I mean, across the board. To me, the body is such a phenomenal piece of machinery, and I love how it works and how it moves and how different we're all made differently, but we can get different results through different exercises because what works for you doesn't work for me and vice versa. So I'm really excited to be here and talk about this and dive into your questions. And I agree with Justin. The fact that y'all have all taken the test, it's given us a blueprint of you. It's a blueprint of who you are and how you're made. So it's basically a no-brainer of how do we get you to the best you, which I love. But through working out and guidance and accountability, any dream and any goal can be achieved. So that's what we're here for. And let's dive in and talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. And we sent out a poll at the beginning of this, and just regards to weight training frequency or exercise frequency, looks like the majority of you get it done once or twice a week. Not bad by any means, right? It depends on how you train. About 20% do 3 or 4 times a week, and wow, a good 27% of you do 5 or more. That's great. That's quite a bit. Um, and it looks like yeah, kind of a balance, right? There's people that do more cardio and people who do more weight training, and that's in relation to what the goal is, right? Is the goal weight loss? Is the goal the building of muscle, hypertrophy? um, like you mentioned, Felicia, I mean, these are all different stimulus, and the way I look at training, working out, is that we're actually trying to educate the nervous system toward a particular endpoint. You know what I mean? So with what you do, I mean, I'm guessing that you do a heck of a lot of what they call isolation training, right? Like with bodybuilding, it's more so picking a muscle group, obliterating it, pumping it up, getting it to be more aesthetically pleasing. And each day, I'm assuming that you do a different muscle group. Is that mainly what you do, like isolation technique?
Absolutely. Yeah. Everything is isolated in bodybuilding. And yes, you're going to work one body part per day. So you wouldn't go in and do a full body workout. You're going to go in and do like shoulders one day, then a full back workout and chest workout, then maybe, the next day, and then legs totally on their own, and then bis and tris. So yeah, it's totally with kind of repetition as far as exercises, because wherever your weakest point is, that's what you want to build the biggest in. And for me, it was always my shoulders. So I was always doing tons and tons of shoulders of different forms and exercises to reach that goal. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that the benefits of bodybuilding as well, as far as like posture, um, the way that isolation training works is it really helps to strengthen ligaments and tendons and the things that actually feed the muscles, and it tends to have a good stabilizing effect of the joints, right? So as we age, I think bodybuilding can certainly be a valuable tool. I would say the only reason why some people may want to do more of the compounding or the full body lifts is because you get a pretty good growth hormone and testosterone pulse when more than one joint is moving, right? So that's called a compound lift. So when you're doing like bigger movements, like a clean and press type of a movement, the whole body is actually moving at once, as opposed to just isolating one muscle group. So there's some benefits there as well, right? You get a pretty good anti-aging hormone pulse from doing that. And what I would say is something to consider when we're talking about creating, the ideal fitness plan is, what's your time investment look like, right? Like that's why we took that poll. Do you have time to do 45 minutes once or twice a week? If so, maybe the bodybuilding route might not be as effective for you because we don't want to skip muscle groups, right? So that's when the full body kind of lifts would come into play there. How do you approach that with your clients? Like if you have a client that has limited time, how do you adjust their training? Is there a way that you do it separately from how you would approach your own training?
Well, it all goes back to what are they trying to achieve? Are they going to be the 2 or 3 day worker outer, which I love. So we would just design a program around that. So you might, in that instance, you might do a full body or break it up, upper body and then lower body the next day, the second day. However, that person likes to train. We also, obviously talking to them, what are their limitations? What do they have? What are we starting with? Do we have any injuries that we need to look at first, and then designing the program around that. But yeah, if it went into like a 3 or 4 day, then we would add obviously different days doing different things. But if across the board, if they said, I don't want to be a bodybuilder, I just want to get in good shape, it would look different. Yeah, we're going to do across the board every muscle from head to toe, never skip leg day, especially guys, don't ever skip leg day. So we'll do front to back, all muscles and muscle groups. And it also will look different as far as reps and sets. That will also look a little bit different depending on their achievement, what they want to achieve at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, and let me tell you some about leg day, okay? So, because that's like a whole thing, skipping leg day, right? It's kind of it's a cardinal sin, of course. But one of the reasons why you really shouldn't skip leg day is because there's actually an incredible density of androgen receptors in the legs, right? It's such a big muscle group. So I'll tell you, one time I did for about a month, I did a program called Squat Every Day. And it's just as nasty as you can imagine it sounds. So I did a normal workout split, right? So I would do shoulders one day, back one day, etc. But every workout started with like really heavy squats. And the reason why is because of the compound nature of that, and then the androgen receptor component, my testosterone was just through the roof. It's like cheating almost, except it's not because it's unbelievably painful and difficult. But I'll say in a 30-day span of squatting heavy every day, I probably gained more muscle on that program than any other program that I've ever done. And it was only 30 days. So leg training specifically really raises that baseline level of hormones, and that lends itself to greater strength, longevity, right? Because these are anti-aging hormones that we're getting. Then there's just a component where this is what connects you to the ground, right? Like your legs are the lower half. Without that foundation, you'd never build a house and not put that time into creating the foundation. It would be dangerous, right? So having the lower body be really stable in what you do, no matter what your program looks like, you got to be squatting, you got to do some lunges, right? You've got to target that because there's a hormone component that leads to more success across the board.
Oh, totally, totally agree. Yes. And it's funny you said the squats. I did the same thing with back because I needed a wide back. So in figure, we're measured or we're judged by, they call it, the X factor. How big are your shoulders, your little waist, and your legs? But my back had to be really wide. So I did back every day. Same thing. Well, just one set, not like except for back day. Then I would do a full range of exercises. But I am with you on that. We as women, we have testosterone too. And I could tell I got stronger and my back got wider because it needed to. And it was brutal. It was brutal. I would not recommend that for anybody, but I totally agree with you. What you're talking about is 100% dead on. So heck yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a spectrum here as far as experience levels, and that's certainly, one of the upper echelons. So I wouldn't recommend that for a beginner. If anyone in the audience today is a beginner, let's talk a little bit about how you would kind of get started, right? Because a big part of what we do at the DNA company in general is meeting people where they're at and figuring out how to build that momentum, right? The momentum game I'm always talking about totally applies to fitness. So, if you're really just getting started on your fitness journey, I'm a big fan of starting where it starts and maybe even starting with something called micro workouts. Like sometimes just even a little bit of calisthenics, and can you do 10 push-ups here and 10 sit-ups there, and then go for a walk and do some stretching and maybe just start there. Really what matters with working out is that time under tension. So for people that are just starting or people that are really crunched for time, I always just say, let's see it. Can you do 5 push-ups? Maybe you can, maybe you can't. We can modify. But if so, why don't we do that like a few times throughout the day? At the end of the day, the cumulative time under tension has actually given you a full chest workout, right? So sometimes it's a matter of just zooming out a little bit and doing what you can. I'm sure you've seen clients of all skill levels, right, and all experience levels. How do you kind of approach it if this is a beginner and they're just trying to get going?
For me, it's again, so first we're going to talk about, do you have any limitations? Physically, what is your stature? What do you look like? Can I get you to do 10 push-ups, or are you more of like, I've got to sit down and we're just going to do some bicep curls. I can't stand at the moment, or I'm not, I'm not stable standing. So it all starts there. And yes, kind of walk them through, like, can you give me some bicep curls with 5 pounds? How many can you do? So you kind of get a checkpoint from there and speaking with them. And then it goes, because I do have some beginners that are like, really, they're okay. Let's hit it. Let's do it, And from that point, then you just dive in and be like, okay, this is how we're going to set it up. I can see that you can do this and you can do that. And then I write you a program. I'll write you a program regardless, but it does definitely look different depending on your goal and the ability that you have at the moment, the movement. But clear across the board, yes, let's dive into, how do you eat? How do you sleep? What do you do? What does a normal day look like for you? What does that look like? How much time do you have? How much time do you don't have? Okay, we'll start there too. And then it just it morphs and it grows from there. And I'm so impressed. The ones who start and continue, always by week 2, it's like, let's bump it up. I can bump it up. I can do it. It's the whole endorphins that it creates in your head, you're already like, I'm getting stronger. I'm getting stronger. So that's the fun part of it. Trying to, you know, go and get to that point. But I've trained people from very beginning to my claim to fame, my 85-year-old lady who wanted just to walk into a room at Thanksgiving without a walker. And we
Yeah.
did it. And it was very slow. She hadn't done anything, you know, she's on a walker, but we started out slow. I mean, she was doing 5 pounds, maybe very, in the our first workout was not very long. I think it was only like maybe 10 minutes for real. I mean, that's all she could do. And it was beautiful. But by the end of the end of the 12 weeks, when she went to walk into her family's home, she could literally walk by herself, and she was lifting like 15 pounds, you know,
Yeah.
instead of her fives. It was just beautiful. So that's the joy and the I don't know, it just gets me going to see people at any level, at any stage, and where you start and where you end is phenomenal.
Yeah, weightlifting is it's like a cheat code in life, honestly. Like being strong, and I'll just tell you this right now, being strong is awesome. Okay? It just is. And it's like if anybody out there, if you have the capacity to lift weights and get stronger, I can't recommend it enough because it's simply better, right? It's a better way to live your life. I'll share something that happened just I guess 2 3 days. It was the beginning of the week. So I have a stepdaughter who has challenges. She has mobility issues and different things, and she gets picked up on the handy bus thing every morning. And we just didn't have time to get her in her chair and get her down the stairs properly. And I mean, it's a 115-pound woman who doesn't have core strength and different things. So I just scooped her up. I did. I just grabbed her, I scooped her up, I walked her down the stairs, and then the bus driver guy came up and he literally was like, "You're an amazingly strong dude." I'm like, "You got to be, right? For everybody else in your life, they benefit when you're very strong and capable, you know, and weightlifting is the reason why. I wasn't just born that way. It's because I've consistently hit the weights to where you become like something different. You know, it's unbelievable what it does for you in your life and your mind, and just it's analogous to life too, isn't it? Because life, we encounter resistance. If we self-impose adversity daily, right? It's adversity. You're fighting and struggling against a resistance. Your character will literally mold around that barbell. You'll become something new, 2.0, 3.0, 10.0, like I say. So weightlifting is awesome. And if you are able to do it in any capacity, I can't recommend it enough. And I'm sure you feel the same way, Felicia.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I cannot recommend it enough. We weren't made to sit around. We weren't made to just be sedentary. No, we were made to do things. And to be able to carry groceries in for the average person, that might be a big deal. But the more muscle you have, first and foremost, you're going to burn fat. With the more muscle you have, you're going to burn fat sitting. So if you lifting weights and you're working out, the more muscle you have, you're going to be burn fat at a sitting state. So that's first and foremost. But then the following, yes, you become powerful and you become confident. It helps you. It'll help you across the board with your family. Saying you have somebody you have to take care of, you're able to. You can do jobs that need to have that strength and endurance, but it also will help you in your workspace. I mean, can you imagine if you had to go into a board meeting, the confidence you would have, or you had to lead a group of people, the confidence they would give you to think that, you know, I work out, I take care of me, which in turn affects my brain, which in turn, life just goes better. You're also healthier. You stay healthier. You're not as sick. And, you know, I love being strong. The fact that if I have a chair in my living room, I'm like, I want to move it over there. I'll just move it. I mean,
Yeah.
that to me is just, you know, that's powerful. So, and I have a lot of girlfriends who do the same, that, you know, women who've just been like, you know, I used to couldn't do that, or I couldn't lift, or I couldn't, and they started a program, whether it be so small, it's your body has no choice to change though. See, if you lift, it's still breaking down, it's still got to rebuild, it's still getting stronger. And they're just like, I did this the other day and I didn't think I could do it. I just, you know, in fact, I had a friend that said I had to put a lawnmower, like a push lawnmower, in the back of a truck. And she goes, you know what? I just lifted that sucker and put that in there. And I was like, good for you. She goes, I just kind of stepped back and she said, I wanted to tell all the neighbors, like, look what I did. Look what I did, you know? So it, yes, I cannot say enough about weightlifting. It's what's going to get us to the end. It's what's going to keep us walking and being able to provide for ourselves and take care of ourselves when we're older. I know some of us don't have family that's going to be there to take care of us. Somebody's going to have to. I want to be functional and be able to, um, take care of myself. So that's why I do it.
Yeah, well, the mental side of it alone is incredible, what it does for you. And I think when you get into it, some kind of training, it's like you kind of recognize as well that hour of your day that you choose to put into a workout, it impacts the other 23 hours of your day so much. But then you kind of zoom out and you go, oh, the other 23 hours of the day also impact the workout. So you start to think about these different things as far as like other protocols, like, am I hydrated? I got to work out at 3. I better make sure that I get my healthy food in. I better not go into it thinking weak thoughts. You start to kind of dissect, because if you're going to devote yourself to becoming a stronger individual, you got to kind of start applying things across the board. you know like when I started lifting, it was an incredible transition. And I was, mid-teens, I guess, when I kind of started, but I had some serious issues as far as anxiety problems and depression and what have you. And it was a very destructive mindset that I had, like self-destructive. And this weird switch happened. The barbell changed me, because I go, oh, like I can actually impact my reality by putting myself through this pain daily. So it was like I said, my personality became self-constructive instead of self-destructive. So I started going, oh, that's why I need to take my vitamins. Oh, that's why I need to get a good sleep instead of being up all night playing grab ass with my idiot friends. Right? I need to start to get in alignment, because if I want to be the best I can at this and the strongest individual possible, I need to put things in place. And my day started to change. And the way my mind worked, instead of being like, how hammered can I get to escape, to not have to go to school because it causes me anxiety, instead it was like, well, how can I maximize this positive thing now that I'm doing? So you start thinking about nutrition, you start thinking about your health, your social circle starts to change, right? And before you know it, you are a different person. Then here we are, grown adults, and you go, man, that was a good decision.
Mhm.
Like I'm so much better off from doing it. And so I can't help but say, if you aren't started yet on this journey, or you look at your body and you're authentically just not happy with it, know that there's some control there. Like you can start making positive decisions now, today, regardless. And then just what we talk about, stacking wins, get that momentum going, build yourself something new. You have the capacity to do that. And I'm sure you've seen so many transformations that it's probably incalculable at this point.
Oh yeah. And I'm just going to reiterate what you said. Yes, it's a mind thing. And once you start, it becomes addictive. And then so say you start at this level, but then you're right. You see, okay, I too have anxiety. Okay, the anxiety's gone. Oh wait, I'm sleeping better. Okay, hang on. I'm talking to other people about health, because now you've got something to talk about and people are noticing stuff in you. So it almost makes you want to be better. And then you start reading things. And then, I didn't start up here. You start at like, oh, okay, you know what? I'm gonna drink more water. And then it becomes where that's all I drink now. Water is just my go-to. When it used to not, years ago, it was not, right? We had Cokes and alcohol and all the stuff that they lean into, the sugary stuff. And it just becomes a mind frame of no, I'm going to be different. I'm going to do something different. But it also teaches you discipline, because then once you get into it, you're like, okay, so no, I can't come see you at this time because I have to work out. This is my time I work out. That becomes first and foremost. And those people that if they're not on your journey, it's okay, right? Because you're bettering yourself, and you'll find out a lot of people get jealous of you. Like, why are you doing that? Because I'm taking care of me. And down the line, I've seen where take a husband and wife or family who come and I train. Well, the next thing you know, first of all, somebody in the family is not happy that they're using the time. Well, they see results. And then the next thing you know, guess what? I'm training both of them. I'm training a husband and wife, or a husband and a son, or mother and a daughter, or whatever. It becomes infectious, and it's like, it's just addicting. So, you take it and it just grows and it grows. And then next thing you know, you're 5 years down the road and you're like looking at old pictures of yourself going, I can't believe I used to be there. I can't believe, that was like a bad time in my life. And things will definitely change. They have no choice. They have no choice but to get better. And that part's really cool.
Yeah, I've encountered that a lot as well, and just with personal training clients and that, where it's like they start making these positive steps in their life, and then someone in their life doesn't approve or whatever. And I always say, those who fail to reflect will project. You know what I mean? And I
Absolutely.
think people kind of people tend to hate on what they gave up on as well. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah, and I say that I'm like, any of my friends, let's say, for example, who've ever done one push-up in their life, I'm like, what you wanted to accomplish with that one push-up. It's just that you chose to talk yourself out of it instead of keeping going. Right. And that's the hardest part, is in the beginning, when you don't have any momentum, you don't have the type of body that you want. There's a lot of pain in the beginning, like when you really first start getting into it, and having dietary discipline is pain. Working out is pain. The soreness is just maximum. You're not used to it yet. So how do you approach that in the beginning when you have, like, let's say, a new client, you put them through their first workout and they're just massacred from it the next day, and they're sore, and they start to kind of talk themselves out of it? What do you do? Like, how do you encourage them? It's a mindset thing, obviously, at that point.
Totally mindset, and you have to kind of talk them off the ledge, but because it's what I tell them is like, you didn't get to this point overnight as far as before you came to see me. So where we're going to get is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take discipline. It's going to take some pain. It's going to take, but I always like to reiterate that the pain is growth. The pain is actually growth. That's what's making you better. Now, I have taken, you don't want to work them so to the point where they can't get up and out of a chair, but you want to make it to where, okay, it's doable. And then you just gotta walk them through it. Hey, sometimes I'm like, hey, I need to get you on the treadmill. Let's get some blood flowing. Let's get some blood flowing through your body. And that will relieve some of the pain. That will relieve some of the tenseness. Maybe go sit in a hot tub, maybe do something to relieve it. But it's actually a good thing. It's all growth. The hurting is growth. So hang on. Don't get frustrated. Don't be like, I can't do it, because you can do anything you want to do. And I even tell somebody who I say like, skip jump rope for 30 seconds. Well, I can't do it. Anybody can do anything for 30 seconds. We got it. I got you. I got you. And I think also it comes with somebody who's got your back, with a personal trainer or a workout partner who's got your back to literally push you. That's another thing. I think accountability is huge, because if you are alone, yeah, I think you're more, I don't know what, like, okay, you know what? It's just too hard. I don't want to do it. It hurts. But if you've got somebody there with you that says, no, we're going to do this together. We're getting better. It's going to be okay, and work through it. That on the other end is that's where we're trying to get there, right? The other end.
Yeah, yeah, and it's really interesting, the like, when you talked about the pain of it, it's very interesting, because people who want to make a change in their lives are doing it because they're already in pain. It's just a different form, right? So it's like the psychological pain, the spiritual pain of not being happy in your own body. I would argue that that's way more painful in the long run than the acute pain that comes with discipline. Discipline hurts, yes, but so does not being happy with yourself, right? So we're kind of trading one for another: the pain of winning and sacrificing and doing what you need to do to be the best you can be, right? There's going to be X amount of pain that comes with that. But I would say the psychological and spiritual pain of knowing you could have done more, knowing you could have been more for your family. Once again, it's not just about you. Everyone benefits from you being the best you can, right? I say this to myself every morning when I get up. I say, all I know is that I owe, right? I owe people. I owe my clients the best J hair as possible. My partner, my stepdaughters, I owe them the best J hair as possible. So for me to just take that pain because I didn't do my responsibilities, I consider training my responsibility at this point, versus the pain of loading up a barbell and squatting up and down a few times. I'll take that second pain 10 times out of 10. You just got to remember that in the beginning. You're doing this for something. It's a little bit harder when you don't have the momentum yet. Once you do, and you start seeing the changes and feeling the changes, it does get easier, is a tough word because the workouts have to get harder, but it does get to be something your body craves and you see the benefit, so you understand it more. And the ratio of pain to reward starts to balance out a little bit. So I think that does help. Once again, it's a momentum game.
Yeah, totally. And I think the worst pain is at the very beginning, because I still get sore and I still have pain, but it's not nothing like the very beginning, because that's where I was doing the most work, the changing and making habits that I didn't have to begin with. And you're right. I think the more pain is in our head and being sedentary, being sedentary. So the movement, which we know is good, and it's painful, but it's going to pay off. And that's what we're reaching for. And it's still, you're still creating those endorphins. So it changes the pain kind of to like, oh, it's a cool pain. Like I always talk to, a lot of girlfriends that we're doing squats. Well, I can't walk for 2 days, but they love every minute. Like when's next squat day, because it creates strength, and you're thinking, I'm going to look great in a swimsuit. So
Yeah.
it's part of the motivation. It's part of what gets you there. So yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like, it has to kind of consistently be something that hurts. Like you should be getting sore, I would
You
say.
should.
When it comes to creating like a program, there's something called periodization, which I'm sure you know all about. And basically, the way it works is that your body, it's so adaptable. Like it's gonna prepare next time for what you threw at it this time, right? So if we were to create a weight training program or even a running program or whatever, if we do the same 3 sets of 8 of a barbell curl over and over again, your body's going to at some point go, here we go again, 3 sets of 8. I know what to do about it.
Mhm.
That's where the concept of like muscle confusion comes in. So if you find that you're just starting and you're kind of picking a few exercises, doing the same ones with the same weight, sooner or later your body's prepared and it's not going to react anymore, right? So that's where we change it up. And there's so many ways to change it up. You could either go heavier, you could change the reps, the sets, the rest intervals, or you can even do different equipment. Maybe do the cable instead of the barbell. Do what's called a slow negative, where you lower it really, really slowly. Um, you can superset it, which means that you would pair it with another exercise. I'd recommend changing it up. Experiment with different stuff. Use a kettlebell instead of a dumbbell. What does it feel like? Add some bands onto it. They're all different stimulus, and the goal is to keep your body reacting, because we're in fact educating it. We're making it a smarter organism. So you can't just throw the same stimulus over and over.
For sure. I even, like in my workouts, every 6 to 8 weeks, change it up from heavy weight, low reps, to lighter weight, 15 to 20 reps. Change it up. Keep my body guessing. Plus doing different exercises. Like you said, maybe instead of doing free weights, I'm going to go to a machine. Just something a little different that makes your body go, okay, we're doing something different today. We're doing something different. And women, I want to tell you, by lifting weights, you're not going to get huge and bulky. There's no way that you're going to, like, oh, I have to go up 3 pounds because this weight's light. It's impossible. It really is. You're not going to get ginormous. What you're going to get is strong. You're going to get sculpted, and you're going to get looking phenomenal. But so many women are like, oh, well, I'm big to begin with. You're okay. You're okay. You're not going to get just ginormous. So let's just stay the course, do what I say, and it'll pay off.
Yeah, it's super unlikely. I would say there's indicators as far as like in your genes that you can look at if you have access to the 360, um, that you can use to kind of understand what your body's going to do when you introduce these variables. The only thing that would make you get abnormally jacked quickly would be in the hormone panel if you have a lot of androgen dominance, which is not common. So just so you know, look at your CYP17A1 gene if you have your 360. See if you've got what's called a dominant profile, which means you make a lot of testosterone, or a balanced profile. Then look at another gene called SRD5A2 that's associated with androgen conversion, right? So that's going to determine DHT levels, which is like a super duper potent form of testosterone. If you have a pretty abnormal set of hormone pathway there, maybe then you'll get, Arnold Schwarzenegger level jacked, but that's really, really uncommon. And you would still have to be lifting hard, high protein diet. Like you would be a rare mammal at that point. So I don't think you need to worry about it at all getting bulky.
So do you see that? Is that gene, Justin, in a women? Do you see that a lot in women across the board?
No,
Or
not really. So we
okay.
see we see dominance, yeah, hormone dominance, but that first conversion of progesterone into
Mhm.
testosterone is what determines that. But from there, the testosterone can either androgenize, right, like that, go to DHT, or aromatize. For the most part, there's going to be a decent amount of aromatization in females. So you might get a bit of androgen conversion, but most of it, even with a dominant profile, is ultimately going to lend it to more of an estrogen dominance. But again, we can tip the scales with compound weightlifting, with high quality fatty acids, making sure you don't have micronutrient deficiencies. We can tip the scales, but yes, you're absolutely correct. For you to get abnormally bulky just from weightlifting, it's like a 0.1% likelihood, I would say, in total.
Yeah. That's what I love about this test. I mean, like I said, it's literally a blueprint of you, and it can tell you exactly how to get where you want to be. There's the guessing's gone. It's like, oh, I tried so many diets and I've tried, instead of lifting weights, I'm going to go run 10 miles. Well, I'm not built to run 10 miles. That's, it's not going to work for me. That's what I love about this and how you can design, and what I have found out through this test is when I talk to people that they're like, well, cardio doesn't work well for me. I go, did you like it anyway? No. It's always
Yeah.
weird. It seems like the people like, or if they can lift weights because that's where their gene is at, they're like, I love to lift weights. I've
Yeah.
seen it. I just love how, we kind of knew it, but this now it just tells you like, here it is. Let's get to it. Let's get in shape.
Yeah. Yeah. There's kind of an intuition there, which is interesting. And I've experienced it over and over again with patients. And, to kind of zoom in on that a little bit, there's a couple moving parts within your DNA 360 that I would consider when it comes to like constructing your ideal fitness plan, right? So we talk about the hormones. Are you, dominant or are you balanced? And that can have an influence over whether or not you should be weightlifting. The main things with cardio, and this is important to point out when it comes to health and longevity here, what we're talking about in the genes is twofold. So there's a gene called 9p21, which we've discussed a little bit before on these webinars. It has to do with the toughness and the density of your blood vessels and your endothelium. So we measure it from 0G all the way up to 6G. The more G's you have, and 3G is the most kind of common, but if you have 3, 4, 5, 6, it means that your endothelium are thinner genetically. So we need to be aware because doing a lot of cardio is going to increase inflammation. And there's all these little tears and things that happen and damage in the blood vessels that happen. So if you've got 3 or more G for 9p21, which is in your cardio profile, I would be pretty friggin' selective about how much high intensity cardio you do, right? We want to be very aware of that. So that's the first consideration. The second thing I would look at in your profile is in the antioxidant um, part of it, which is there's like glutathionization, and then there's one that says antioxidation. So your body creates oxidants when you do cardio, right? It creates free radicals because in the mitochondria, it's like when you light a fire, you have to have smoke, right? So mitochondria create all this energy. As a natural byproduct, it creates smoke, quote unquote, which is a free radical. So genetically, there's two moving parts. There's a gene called SOD2, and there's another one called GPX. If those are out of alignment, and especially if you have a suboptimal SOD2, which means you have the T allele, you're not going to clear those oxidants very well from the level of the mitochondria. So there's certainly a double-edged sword. If you're doing a lot of cardio, you're also increasing your body's toxin load, right? Something we want to be very aware of. So what I do for that, because I don't have the greatest antioxidant pathway, is if I'm going to do cardio, like if I'm going to hit the punching bag or whatever, I do hydrogen water before and then I do it again after, because it helps clear the reactive oxygen species out of the mitochondria. You know, you can do sauna, sweat it out. You can take things like carbon 60, like C60 to help kind of clear that as well. But keep that in mind. And if you do ever get into one of our programs, we need to talk about that, because if you plan on doing a lot of cardio, we've got to target the downsides as well.
So interesting. I love it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah, there's so much to it, and I wanted to touch today as well, just because the oxidant component kind of lends itself to this conversation about overtraining, and I wanted to get your take on overtraining because there is so many takes on it. I've heard people say you can't overtrain. I've heard people work out once or twice a week and say I'm overtrained. So, you know, my thoughts on it is that what we need to consider is you could work out twice a week and physiologically be overtrained if you didn't address all the recovery variables. Or you could work out 6 days a week and not be overtrained because you did, right? So it's actually this balance of sympathetic and parasympathetic activity. How much are we able to restore your body? Are you foam rolling? Did you sleep? Are you hydrated? Do you have enough amino acids? On and on. How do you approach that conversation of overtraining with your clients?
Well, I first and foremost, once we get into it and we talk about how sore are you, or do you not feel like doing it another day? Or I kind of go back to the basics. Why? What is it? And a lot of it's like, I'm too sore. Well, are you foam rolling? Like you said, are you stretching? Are you doing yoga? Are you doing, no. Well, let's try that. If that still doesn't work, I do believe you can overtrain. I think your body, if you're really in tune though with your body, it'll let you know that are you either just tired because you didn't sleep well the night before, or sore because you didn't foam roll or stretch, or are you literally lifting too heavy and not eating what you need to be eating to refuel your body, which in return is going to make you sore, sluggish, no energy, and don't feel like, working out again. So I think there is a fine line there. And I think you can overtrain, but I think it also, maybe it might be also with how are you recovering? So if you're not recovering well, then of course you're going to overtrain. If you're not taking care of the soreness and the things you have to do, it's not just go to the gym and that's it. You still have to stretch and eat and refuel your body, and then recover 24 hours later. I'm not a big I definitely wouldn't do like arms and then within 12 hours go back and do arms again. That definitely wouldn't do that. So what does it look like to you? Is that how you're training? Maybe you need to space it out a little bit more, at least 24 hours. That's my rule of thumb, at least 24 hours, unless it's a totally different body part. And like you said, you did shoulders, and I'm like, okay, I got to get legs in the morning because I'm an all dayer. I've got meetings all day and I can't. Then I'm okay with that. Sure, get up in the morning and go do legs, but listen to your body. Your body will tell you. hey, maybe today I'm not going to do cardio for 45 minutes. I'm just going to do a 20-minute, like really quick, hit it and stop, So I think it all boils back down to is listening to your body. What is it that you're doing? Are you recovering? Are you taking supplements? Are you doing those things that help you recover and go from there?
Yeah, and I think that having like a adjustable program too helps a lot. Like sometimes you have a game plan, and it's like you wake up and your body, like your nervous system, is just cooked, and then it's like, okay, maybe we need to adjust. If I was going to do legs, maybe I should do. I'm not skipping leg day. I'm adjusting, right? I'm not saying I do this. I'm just saying, if you choose, I might dial it all the way down to just mobility. Honestly, because I can tell the difference between like muscular fatigue and nervous system fatigue,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
for
there's
sure.
almost a point where like if you're an athlete, you can just feel the cortisol load and you're like, I shouldn't train today. Like it's going to be a bad workout. So maybe it's a day to go for a walk and do some yoga. And it's like I have this concept of rest days versus recovery days. I never take a full rest day as far as like sitting and playing video games and it's my rest day, right?
Mhm.
Even on those days, I call it a recovery day because I'm putting quite a bit of work into recuperating my body. I'm on that foam roller. I'm in the sauna. I'm getting my chiropractor adjustment done. I'm using my inversion table. I'm doing breath work, PEMF. It's like the same time investment, but it's all anabolic work, right? Build up work as opposed to catabolic breakdown, beat the crap out of yourself. So every day you should put something into your body because it's what you got. It's the only one God gave you. So you should probably take care of it. You got a Ferrari in your driveway. You don't expect your neighbor to come take care of your Ferrari. It's your
Right.
Ferrari. Take care of it. So yeah, rest days versus recovery days. I think that's kind of one of those overarching concepts that can really help people recover properly instead of just sit around because it's not a workout day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think you nailed it. And a lot of people don't know what a recovery day looks like. And a lot of people think, oh, recovery day means I have the day off.
Yeah,
No, it like you said, it means no, maybe go take a walk instead of ride a bike or
yeah,
do some stretching instead of the gym. Just like you said, it's still movement because I
yeah,
still expect you, we all still need to get our steps in, as everybody likes to put it this day and age. Did you get your steps in today? Did you get, so which I think is so cool. These watches, I mean, they tell you exactly what we're doing, how we're sleeping, how much what zone we're in. I think they're phenomenal. But so still recovery means movement. You still got to move. You still need to get your steps in. It just doesn't look like a full-blown sweat. I'm exhausted workout, but you're still
yeah,
moving. Never stop moving. Gosh,
yeah,
that's the end of all end. You stop moving. I mean, and the older you get, you stop moving, you'll lose it. You will. You quit, it goes. It's just a thing. But muscle memory is phenomenal. Say you break your arm in a cast for 12 weeks, whatever. If you were fit to begin with, it'll come back quickly. It really will.
yeah.
Muscle memory is phenomenal. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. They're like, well, it's just gone. Well, it will leave, but if you've built it up, it comes back quicker.
Yeah, yeah, and it's surprising how quick it actually does come back if like if you have a little tweak or something like that and you've got to take a while off of training. Don't get discouraged because it'll come back pretty
Mhm.
quick. I want to get into some Q&A. There's one more quick thing I was going to mention with regard to that overtraining conversation. You mentioned you got the watch, and I do the Aura ring and stuff myself. A couple of good little things to pay attention to if you suspect you're overtrained would be kind of your morning resting heart rate. If it's still elevated, that's a pretty good sign that at that nervous system level, you didn't recover, right? So maybe consider that being one of your lighter days or a smaller muscle group versus a bigger one or whatever. But pay attention to that. Resting heart rate, HRV. These are really good variables now. The other thing would actually be grip strength. Like if you have really just poor grip strength compared to normal, it's actually a nervous system thing. and it's a sign that you've overdone it and you need another 12 hours or another day or whatever. So I recommend paying attention to those two metrics. Is there anything I missed there? Is there any other thing that you pay attention to for overtraining?
Oh no, that was you nailed it. Sometimes I look at if somebody says, I feel sick. I feel like I'm catching a cold. I feel like that and that to me is sometimes a sign that, okay, you're not taking care of yourself. You've overworked and you're not recovering well or doing what you need to do to fuel what you've expended, you know.
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, looks like we've got a gang of questions here, so I'm ready to dive in if you are, Ms. Bruno.
Sure, let's do it.
All right. Okay, so our man Andrew asked a question. He says, what type of exercise, if any, should a thin but sedentary 55 plus year old male with sarcopenia, fibromyalgia, lupus, and Hashimoto's do? Zero GSTM1, GSTT1, suboptimal GSTP1, tried continual G, no difference. Okay, so I'll fuel this one just due to the genetic components and stuff there. So what I would say is, I mean, of course, to deal with the health problems there and the fact that your body doesn't glutathionize properly, definitely a program with us to kind of deal with those issues would be in your interest. GSTT1 means the liver, GSTM1 means the gut microbiome, GSTP1 means the respiratory tract. You're not detoxing super well at those levels. And I would say that could have, some negative health consequences as a trickle down effect just for health and longevity. And fitness is related to that. So a program in getting those issues at least upregulated to the best of our ability is great. As far as fitness is concerned, it's like we talked about. We got to start where it starts with no momentum and get some little micro wins in, right? I mean, I think sarcopenia, being the loss of muscle mass, is probably a downstream effect of the rest of the things, the thyroid issue and what have you. I would honestly recommend just kind of starting really basic, just a little bit of those micro workouts that I talked about earlier. Judge what you can do and then just push your psychological limit very, very slightly each day. Maybe it's twice a week. You see if you can handle a few push-ups, a few body weight squats. I'm a big fan of kettlebells as well, as far as like a home tool. The cool thing about kettlebells is, number one, they're an indestructible cannonball. You buy a kettlebell, you're going to have it till the end of eternity. When the apocalypse happens, it's going to be kettlebells and the cockroaches. That's all that's going to be left, right? So there are going to be some jacked cockroaches running around. So it's indestructible. It doesn't take up a lot of space, and you don't have to worry about like loading the barbell and having all these equipment. You can just pick it up and start moving it, and you can get a real good spectrum of weights. You can get 2-pound kettlebells, you can get 110-pound kettlebells, and everything in between. So some kind of external resistance like that, I would recommend. And there's a million different ways you can train with it. If you get into one of our programs, I'm sure we could teach you a couple techniques. And just body weight. I also would recommend just some kind of mobility routine, some kind of stretching. I think that it's underrated, and I think it helps a lot with blood flow. I think there's anti-aging components. I really think it helps with posture and a million things. And you can get a really basic, even just beginner yoga program on YouTube. Type it in. You might find a 10-minute little stretching routine, and maybe we start there. If we can't start there, let's start with breath work. Let's start with something, right? We have to start. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with that first step. So definitely start there. Anything to add to that one, Felicia?
No, I think that's you nailed it. If you can't afford kettlebells, I know once you get in bigger kettlebells, sometimes they get expensive. If that's, and you don't have a place to put them, that's another thing. They're not they don't take as much room as dumbbells, obviously, but so maybe some band resistant training. They come in different, just stretchy bands. They come in different pounds. Like you can get 5 to 10 to 20. You can get them all the way up to 45 pounds. And you can do a full body workout with bands, and bands don't take up any room. So that's the only other thing I would add into it. But 1000% stretching. I totally believe in stretching, blood flow, movement, and you'll actually feel better. Man, I stretch in the morning and I'm like a different person because I stretched. It's just hands down, never give up stretching either.
Yeah, and those bands, by the way, are great for travel and all kinds of stuff too, because it's the resistance isn't coming from the physical weight of the band. The band is
Right.
like pieces, right? You could throw it, there's no weight to it at all, but you could
Yeah.
crumple it up and you could put it into luggage or anything. So bands, good call on that one. Bands are great. All right. So thank you for that one, Andrew. Next one, Patricia Shaughnessy. Hi, Patricia. Good to see you here. Do women have the same androgen receptors in their legs? Yes. Yeah. So legs, like I mentioned, that particular muscle group, when you train it, there's a hormone pulse that comes with it, right? So all of our muscles have androgen receptors, and by the way, we tend to activate them on the eccentric portion of the movement more so than the concentric portion. So you can even activate androgen receptors pretty effectively by elongating that muscle more slowly. So even if you were just doing like a bicep curl, if you do the up part a little bit quicker and do the down part slow or nice and controlled, it actually activates the androgen receptors that are there as well. But in general, yes, both men and women, the androgen receptor density in the legs is higher. And then if you're doing squats, deadlifts, etc., it's also a compound movement, a bunch of different joints moving at once. So definitely you'll get a good androgen response from doing that. Okay, this is a good one for you, Felicia. So Anonymous says, what recommendations would you make for women just starting to work out who are really impacted by hormonal fluctuations, which can be a challenge? I'm sure you've dealt with that with yourself and as well as your clients.
Yeah. Hormones, man, as we get older, women, it's so frustrating. Because you feel like you're so out of control. The weight comes on a hormonal part for women, and it's like, what in the world is happening to me, first of all, and how do I fix it? So I always recommend that depending on the age, and again, we'll look at body structure, what it looks like. Let's get on a good workout program. Let's see what your eating's like, because some of it's a lot with eating. Um, do you intermittent fast? Do you eat, what do you eat and what time do you eat? But definitely weights. I would say let's start on a really easy weightlifting. Go from there. Again, let's look at where are you on the spectrum as far as weightlifting and exercising and just starting out. I'm just saying, like, just get moving. If you don't know where to start, I'm here to help. You can easily, I can help you write up a program, and we can discuss what it would look like for you. What do you have? How many hours do you have in the day? What kind of time frame do you have? And there's simple things we can start you out with by making small changes that will lead to big results. But you just have to be sick and tired of being sick and tired. I mean, that's where it boils down to. Are you ready? Do you want to do it? Let's do it. And I'm here to help you. I'm here to support you and encourage you and give you accountability. And I think sometimes, as women, we just don't have any accountability. Like, I can't do it on my own. I'm here to tell you, I'm here for you. We can do it. Let's just start. It's just starting, going, okay, I'm going to do something, and it'll grow. I promise.
Yeah, and I would add for sure that the utilization of the DNA 360 is going to count for quite a bit there because, it allows you to know a number of things about your hormone pathway, right? The steroidogenesis pathway. Even friggin', I mean, micronutrient profile matters there as well, right? If you're deficient in a micronutrient, which genetically we can kind of see those indicators, that's going to impact the results, right? If you're not a good fatty acid metabolizer and you jump on a ketogenic diet, it might not be the best call for your results, right? So knowing genetically what you're set up for and then combining that, it's a successful marriage between those two things. I think that's your best bet, right? And then, of course, get with a coach, a personal trainer, a functional genomics practitioner, so that we can really unpack what your genes suggest. That's your best bet, right? Because then it's not a blanket recommendation, it's your recommendation. And that's what we do here. So thank you for the question. Let's see. Okay, so I think there's a second part to that. So, what's the best way to decide how to prioritize your goals? If I want to build muscle but also lose weight, do I have to pick one or the other, or can I tackle everything at once? I think we both have an opinion on this one, Felicia. So I'll start and then I'll pass the mic over. Um, my opinion is, I mean, first we got to consider the genetics. So obviously look at your DNA 360, but I really think that a hybrid approach is likely in your interest. I think that when we start to build muscle, as Felicia alluded to earlier, it increases metabolic rate. It also increases the number of mitochondria that exist in your muscle tissue, right? Those are your fat burning powerhouses. So there's a couple of things going on. When you start working out and lifting weights, you get more anabolic hormones, which inherently build muscle, burn fat. Then you get more mitochondrial density, better posture, etc. Then when you do cardio, it just complements the weight training, as opposed to just one or the other. I think that if you do some kind of HIIT workout, let's say you lift twice a week and you do HIIT once a week, a commitment of 3 days a week, that's a pretty solid program. What you do with the HIIT is going to amplify what you did with the weights and vice versa. Just bearing in mind, we want to know your genetics to know how much cardio and what have you is appropriate. So I think both. What do you think, Felicia?
Yeah, definitely both. I wish we could spot reduce. I wish you could be like, I want to gain muscle here, but I want to lose fat on my stomach and I want to gain muscle and at the end of the day, it will happen. But at the very beginning, you're like, okay, so I want to gain a bunch of muscle and lose a bunch of weight. It goes together. And so for me, as you gain muscle, you might actually at the very beginning gain a pound or two, but your body's changing because you're losing fat, but you're gaining muscle, and muscle weighs more than fat. So you may gain a pound or two, lose the weight or the fat around it, but you're gonna physically look different. And at that point, then that's where you go back in and you're like, okay, do I like this look? Or do I need to tweak it and change it? And at that point, more cardio, or HIIT programs, whatever it is, will burn that fat. Then you lose the weight and you kind of shrink, but you actually look bigger. It's weird. Because you're muscular, you will actually look bigger even though you're smaller. It's really cool. But that's what how I would approach it.
Yeah, it's complementary. So definitely
It's very complimentary. Very,
Yeah.
very complimentary, but it messes with your head at first because you're like, wait a minute, I'm wanting to lose weight, but I want to gain muscle. Well, you maybe just a pound or so, but you're gonna physically in the mirror look different at the beginning.
Yeah. All right. So, can I design a workout just using the report results, or to see good results, do I need a program to really make a difference? So, here's what I would say. Our reports are very well made. It's just that they're made on an algorithm and there's only so much detail we're able to really put into the report, right? So it's going to give you the best case scenario as far as aligning what your type of exercise is with your genetics. It's more talking about from a longevity perspective, I would say, more so than a perfect result perspective. So I think it's a great starting point. And it can give you a good idea of like a general, the way that you should orchestrate your fitness protocol. I don't think that you're going to get a great periodized, curated workout plan without working with a coach on some level. But I do think that it's a great start. If you really want to get more detailed, to know somebody who does the genetics as well as the training side of things and understands how to orchestrate reps, sets, rest intervals, type of exercise, order of exercise, splits, rest days or recovery days, like we talked about. There's a lot more details that the reports just aren't able to go off of on just genetics. So that's where an actual like getting on a Zoom call and saying my body does this and being able to actually extract from there would be better. But the reports are definitely a great place to start.
I think that I was just going to say, I think that the reports are great, but if you don't know how to implement like, okay, somebody says, well, go down and do bicep curls with tricep kickbacks and lat pull downs. And do you know what that is? Do you know what that looks like? If you do, great. If not, that's where a trainer would come in to help you and be like, this is what you need to do. This is how many reps you need to do it at and to get the results you need. Also, it's an accountability partner, somebody to be like, okay, when you check in, did you work out this week? How many, did you do of this and how many did you do of that? Yeah, can it be done on your own? Absolutely. But can it be done to the best of your ability to get the results that you actually need? Even trainers need trainers. I mean, even as a pro, I have a trainer. You have to have somebody that's going to be like, no, this is how you need to do it. And in the days that I didn't want to get in there and think about it, my trainer would be like, okay, we're doing 12 of these, which I knew, but you know what I'm saying? It's just that person to keep you accountable to reach your goals.
Yeah, there's levels to it, right? So
Absolutely.
start where you're at, and then you can always start with that and then evolve from there as well, and add more variables and more stimulus to keep the body reacting. Um, all right. Mary asked, if you have 9P21 4G or similar issues, is it still okay to lift heavy to build muscle? So I would say, yeah, it's one of those things where we talk about this cumulative inflammation load on the body. And really, the problem with doing cardio is the elevation of the heart rate and kind of keeping it there. That's going to cause a lot more of that kind of vascular tear down. Whereas when we lift weights and we lift heavy, I mean, you're taking, 3-4 minute rest in between sets. The heart rate does go up, but then it kind of stabilizes. Then it goes up again. Um, you're going to get a little bit of like cardiac hypertrophy and things out of it as well, but you're not creating the oxidants and you're not beating the crap out of it via something like a marathon. You know what I mean? Like with a 4G, I would not recommend you be a runner and have cardio, like steady state cardio, be your main form of exercise. I think you could throw it in now and again. But what I would also recommend for someone who has a 4G is there's all these different ways that we can keep the inflammation down as well. I'm a huge fan of a product called Cardio Miracle. It's really interesting what it does. So it actually increases nitric oxide for a full 24 hours. Then it actually delivers all of these antioxidant and anti-inflammatory nutrients to the vasculature, right? So it's dilating the blood vessels with nitric oxide, which is a hugely beneficial, gas in the body. Then it's delivering things like astaxanthin and organic turmeric and all of these various things, grapeseed extract that help to heal the lining of the endothelium. So if you're concerned about it, some of those types of supplements are great. I've been on Cardio Miracle for a while myself, and it definitely helps. But to answer the question directly, you should be okay with heavy weightlifting. Just keep the cardio to a minimum on that one. All right, Felicia, I'm curious as to your opinion on this next one. So, can you exercise, cardio, weightlifting, etc., during intermittent fasting? What do you think on that?
Yes, you can do it. I do it. I actually fast till noon. Um, Now some people, their stomachs get sick. Like might feel nauseous. You might not feel like you have the energy that you would if you've eaten. So you might see a difference there. I will say that I don't do legs until after I've fasted because I need all the energy I can get to do legs. But yeah, I believe you can do it. You burn fat during it. That when you're working out, all you have is what's in you. I mean, because you don't have any food in you, right? You're fasting, so you're using the energy that's in inside. Now, I think it's very important. You have to refuel afterwards because you've depleted everything. You don't have anything. But in my experience, not saying that it's right, but yes, I do it. What are your thoughts, Justin?
Yeah, so it's a very interesting concept, and I have this tendency to come at things from the ancestral perspective, right? I mean, I being a primal health coach as well, that's what we talk about, hunter gatherers, and I have no doubt that our ancestors did plenty of things fasted. right? Including physical work. So I do think that there's a place for it. I think that it really depends what type of exercising you're doing. I mean, cardio versus weightlifting, like you mentioned. Um, I would say the higher cortisol releasing workouts, like really grinding, brutal workouts. You mentioned a leg day. It can double up on the cortisol if you do something like that in a fasted state. The other question I would have is, how long afterward are you planning on fasting? Like where in fast are you? Are you at the beginning of the fast, the middle of the fast, the end of the fast? Are you modifying the fast in any way, like with bone broth or essential amino acids, those kinds of things? That's generally my recommendation. If you're going to work out in a fasted state, I might have some coffee with some coconut oil in it or something, and kind of modify my fast a bit. Essential amino acids are great because they're pre-digested, they're instantized. So you won't quite get the same cortisol load because your body won't freak out as much. Your muscles have some kind of building block that you can use. So it's something you can do, but I would definitely pay attention to how you feel, because too much cortisol is going to interrupt your results. And I think it's a bit more of an advanced maneuver, frankly, to train fasted. So just bear in mind those, but I'm not against it by any means. I think you can double up on growth hormone and things as well with those two things together. So there's a benefit to it, but pay attention to how you feel.
Totally. I agree.
All right. Okay, so we are getting on here. So Andrew asked, what does CYP17A1AA and SRD5A2CC combo mean? And then what is the cardio gene that Cash have talked about with people with bad arteries? So that gene is what we just talked about, that 9p21 gene. That influences the toughness of those arteries, right? So it's the 0 to 6G, what we were talking about there, that's the gene that Kashif would have been referencing. With the AA CYP17A1 and the CC SRD5A2, you're not going to have a heck of a lot of baseline sex hormone production. And in particular, you're not going to have a heck of a lot of androgens. So I would say that could be linked to the sarcopenia that you mentioned in your previous question. You don't have a lot of anabolic hormones to work with. So once again, all of these things, compound weightlifting, once you can get there, having enough fatty acids, having the right micronutrients, getting some sun, all of these things we can definitely target to get some more androgens. But at a baseline, genetically speaking, you're not making a heck of a lot of those. And I think that's part of the issue with sarcopenia. Okay, so Mary asked, what is a good target for knowing if you're recovered? HRV, heart rate, grip strength, etc. So that's what we discussed previous. And really with HRV, it's one of those ones where it's kind of hard to track, because to get really accurate results, I'm not sure that most of these modalities are quite there yet. But in general, to get a bit higher number, like if you're down at like 20, you're probably not recovered very well. You know what I mean? You want to be like 30, 40, up into the higher echelon. And in my view, with heart rate, you should be aiming for, like when you're sleeping, for example, it should be getting under 60. I think that's pretty good. If it's 1 beat per second, you're doing okay. If you're sleeping, which is when it should be at its lowest, and you're higher than 60, you're probably not recovered very well. What do you think on that one, Felicia?
Yeah, I agree. You're probably not. But if you listen, like we talked about earlier, if you listen to your body, it'll tell you, how do I feel? How do I, how's movement? What does today look like? I think your body will tell you, but also, just like you said, look at your heart rate. That tells you a lot,
Yeah.
And go from there.
Yeah, and with grip strength, there's a thing called a dynamometer. It's one of those machines that you can use, but I actually just use the calipers for the barbell. I have like the steel calipers, and it's like if I can make my hand touch itself, my grip strength is fine. If I'm actually struggling, yeah, that's kind of what I use as an indicator there. But you'll know, right? You'll just pick something up, and you're like, you won't have it. So it's more of a something that you just kind of feel when it comes to that one, as opposed to a true measurement. All right. So Wade asked, I am still waiting on my DNA 360 results, but my question is, what should I pay attention to in my report when it comes to the fact that I'm on TRT? Do any of the clinicians at the DNA company have any experience working with clients on TRT? Yes, there's a number of clinicians here that have some expertise there. That's one of those questions that I usually direct more towards the programs because it's a little bit specific. So generally, I would just pay attention to the hormone panel. I would look at genes like UGT2B17, which is called a glucuronidation gene, which basically speaks to how quickly your body clears androgens. So that's one that you would want to understand. And then that SRD5A2 as well, depending on the type of TRT you're on, that can have some indicators there as far as how much is going to convert to DHT, which can have some toxic effects. So those would be the two main ones I would look at. But definitely, if you're concerned with that, a program is what I would do because it's a fairly complex conversation when it comes to hormone replacement. So Lisa asks, with my DNA that doesn't support cardio, what do I do for cardio that's not detrimental to my blood vessel lining? You have any opinions on that one, Felicia?
I'm saying at least walk. I think you need to walk and stretch. But my vessel lining. Yeah, maybe well, nothing longevity, nothing like for hours, obviously. Just something to get your heart rate up a little bit, but not sustain there. Again, you gotta keep your heart pumping. You gotta do something. So cardio looks different across the board for everybody and at different levels. What for one cardio person who might be in really good shape runs 4 miles. The other one walks very slowly, half a mile, you know. I think it's just movement. You gotta be moving, not sedentary for sure.
Yeah, and I would say when it says that your DNA doesn't support cardio, I would just be curious as to what part of it. So is it because of that 9p21 gene, and is it because your endothelium are too thin? If so, there's things that we can do to help improve that profile. Or is it because of the mitochondrial side, the antioxidation part that I talked about? Because then we need to focus on the mitochondrial side of things. So just know where that actual weak point is so that we know what to actually target. And again, that's where the coaching is of use. But there's a lot of ways that you can actually manifest conditioning without doing like cardio, right? So even weightlifting improves your cardio capacity, right? I mean, do a set of squats and tell me that your heart isn't pumping for a little bit, right? And like Felicia said, going for walks is low intensity, high volume cardio. So that's where you can actually get a decent amount of volume, but the intensity is low, such that you're not actually creating a lot of that damage, right? So it's more of a restorative exercise as well. Beyond that, the dosage makes the poison, right? So it's the frequency of it. If you're compromised at both the mitochondrial and the 9p21 level, you got to be really selective. And it might be like once every couple of weeks that you actually on purpose elevate your heart rate. And the rest of it is just walking and yoga, and then do the odd weight training session. So just know where those weak points are, and then don't do too many steady state cardio sessions because that'll definitely be detrimental. All right, on to the last one. We made it. So Zachary says, I ride the fence on type of fitness to concentrate on. I love the boxing gym. I do small runs, no more than a half marathon, mostly 5 and 10K. Flexibility is my weakness. Mine too, I understand. My goal is to get as close to a gymnast body as I can get, being 60 years old and 5'8" with short legs. COVID left me with 30 extra pounds and a bad attitude. Yeah, hear you once again on that. 3 years ago, I could get a muscle up or two. Now I would be lucky to get a few pull-ups in. I guess I'm looking for some guidance on where to begin again. I forget that I'm not in the shape I was, and I push too far and then feel like crap and get lazy and don't continue. I believe I have one more meeting with Justin. Maybe I should concentrate on the DNA results. Yeah, I would say that's a good call, Zach. When we do talk, remind me when we do, because we can definitely do that. Um, I'm a fan of all those things, right? I mean, the boxing gym is great because you're also learning a skill set, right? Like boxing is going to increase your confidence in so many ways because you're becoming a more dangerous person at the same time. Um, I think that it's a matter of diving into the DNA and then kind of extrapolating from there. You know what I mean? Because we want to have a good balance of weight training to cardio. I can't recall off the top of my head what your superpowers and weaknesses are with that. Um, but I would say, due to the loss of momentum, let's just get rolling, right? Like we talked about earlier, even the micro workouts are going to get that momentum gain going. So stack some W's, like I always say, don't take any more L's, and just get the body moving for now, and we'll get you there when we talk. Anything to add to that one, Felicia?
Yeah, I think I love that you're doing all that stuff. I've always said, do what you love to do, because nobody wants to go do some kind of exercise they hate. You won't do it. So the fact that you love to do all that, I said, yeah, keep doing it. Keep doing it. And for sure, let's start small and add some weights to it. And the other side of that is maybe check your testosterone levels, see where you are in that. Don't you, Justin, like
Yeah.
where that range is? I mean, obviously, if you feel like men as they get older, I know you lose testosterone, you might see where that's at, but it's never too late. Let's just, let's pick up some weights. We'll start and we'll get stronger. No doubt.
All right, folks. And with that, we have got to the end of yet another webinar. So thank you all so much for attending, and thank you for the questions. That was great. Hopefully we were able to provide some value for you all today. I think we were able to pull that off, which is good. Um, any closing thoughts, Felicia, for today? This was an epic fitness conversation.
It was a great conversation. I loved it. I thought it was really fun. If you're interested in training, I'm definitely, you can find me on the product page at the DNA to set up a program for you. I do a 12-week program with 2 times a month of a check-in, and we'll talk about weightlifting, what you're eating, how's it going. I'll be your support system. If we need to change things, we'll do that. If we need to add or subtract, we'll do that. It's all about you. So we are here to help you and encourage you and get you to where you want to be, right? Because we have the DNA blueprint. Let's just knock it out of the ballpark and be the best we can be, so that we are the best for others. And like I've always said, let's live the width, not the length. Let's live the width of life. So we're stronger and we're happier and our heads in a great space. So that's all I would say. This was fun. I really enjoyed it. And I encourage you to get up and move and never skip leg day.
Yeah, that's the theme of this one. Never skip leg day. And yeah, thank you all so much for being here. You can connect with me with any program that you purchase from the DNA company. If you want some coaching, you can actually request me. Just say, hey, Justin seemed cool. I'd like to do one with him. You can follow me on my socials as well. I've got Instagram, Justin Harris Official. And other than that, thank you all so much for showing up. And we will see you on the next one.
Yes, absolutely.
Signing off.
Bye.
Bye.